The lie of burnout. You're not burned out. You're directionless. And that's far worse. You've been lying to yourself. You tell people, I'm just burned out. You throw the phrase around like it explains everything. But here's the brutal truth: you're not burned out. You're empty. You're drifting without purpose, and it's bleeding you dry. Burnout is what happens when you push too hard towards something meaningful. What you have is different. You're exhausted from going nowhere. You're tired from doing things that don't matter. And that kind of fatigue doesn't come from overwork. It comes from underpurpose. Let's make it harshly clear. You scroll for hours and call it rest. That's not rest. That's avoidance. You chase random goals, switch every few weeks, and wonder why you feel broken. You're not broken. You're aimless. You tell yourself, I don't know what I want. That's a lie. You know what you want, you just don't want to face the cost of going after it. Shocking truth, chapter 1. Your body isn't tired. Your soul is. Your nervous system is fried from living in constant reaction mode. You wake up, and instead of moving with intention, you let notifications and other people's needs dictate your day. That's not burnout. That's slavery. Shocking truth, number 2. Burnout requires passion. It requires a mission that you poured yourself into until the flame consumed you. Most of you never even lit the flame. You can't burn out from a fire you never started. What you're experiencing is something darker, the suffocating boredom of an unlived life. Shocking truth. Number 3. Your fatigue is the bill you pay for indecision. The longer you postpone clarity, the heavier the weight becomes. That heaviness isn't burnout. It's the accumulation of unlived potential pressing down on your chest. Look at your life, the way you work, the way you rest, the way you jump from thing to thing like a moth around light bulbs. This isn't productivity, it's panic. It's you trying to fill a void with random activity, hoping one of them finally makes you feel alive. And when nothing does, you collapse into Netflix and call it burnout? No. Stop lying. You're not burned out. You're lost. Here's the problem: your brain craves direction. Humans aren't built for drifting. We're built for targets, missions, pursuits. When you don't give your brain a worthy pursuit, it creates its own chaos, anxiety, depression, fatigue. These are the symptoms of unused energy poisoning you from the inside. Think about it. Even the most exhausting jobs feel less draining when the mission is clear. Soldiers, athletes, creators, they push harder than you ever have, yet they feel alive. Why? Because purpose converts effort into energy. No purpose, then every task feels like a slow death. Here's a painful example: you dread Mondays not because you work hard, but because you work aimlessly. If you had a mission that lit your chest on fire, you'd crave Mondays. You'd attack them. But you don't, so you call it burnout. Let's call your bluff: you're not burned out. You're addicted to distraction. You chase novelty like it's salvation. New job, new city, new person, new hobby. But distraction isn't direction. Distraction only feeds the cycle: temporary high, then deeper crash. You think you need rest? No. You need clarity. Rest without clarity is just another drug. Here's the takeaway for today. Stop labeling your exhaustion as burnout. Start labeling it correctly: directionlessness. Because once you name the disease correctly, you can finally treat it. Practical steps: sit down and write one sentence. What do I actually want my life to stand for? Not 5 goals, not a bucket list. One sentence. Maybe it's I build things that outlast me. Maybe it's I help others break free. Maybe it's I live fully awake. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that you choose. Because until you choose, you'll keep rotting under the weight of nothing. You're not burned out. You're not broken. You're not even tired. You're directionless. And the cure isn't more rest, it's more purpose. So stop hiding behind the lie of burnout. Choose a direction or stay lost forever. The mechanics of directionlessness. You think you're exhausted because life is hard. You're exhausted because your life is empty. Direction, not energy, is what you lack. Here's the thing: you don't want to admit you have enough energy. You waste it. every single day. Not on purpose-driven work, but on meaningless loops that drain you without giving anything back. And then you collapse. Call it burnout and wonder why you feel stuck. Let's rip open the mechanics. Where your energy really goes. 1. Decision paralysis. You spend hours circling questions you should have answered months ago. Should I quit my job? Should I pursue that idea? Should I stay in this relationship? You replay them in your head, again and again. Every replay burns calories, eats bandwidth, drains focus. Not because the questions are impossible, but because you're terrified of answers. 2. Distraction addiction. You claim you're too tired to think, but you somehow have stamina for 5 hours of scrolling. Let's call it you're not tired. You're hooked. Hooked on dopamine hits that make you forget, for a few seconds, that your life has no compass. 3. Approval. Hunting your energy bleeds out through people-pleasing. Every decision you make runs through a filter. What will they think? Do you realize how much of your fire dies every time you bend to keep someone else comfortable? You're not living, you're auditioning. 4. Unaligned work. Nothing drains faster than effort with no alignment. You grind at jobs you hate, not because they build your vision, but because they pay just enough to keep you numb. That's not work. That's a slow suicide with direct deposit. Shocking truths you need to swallow. Truth number 1, your brain isn't tired of effort. It's tired of pointless effort. A bodybuilder doesn't burn out from lifting weights. They burn out when lifting accomplishes nothing. You've been lifting weights in the wrong gym. Truth number 2, you confuse comfort with rest. Comfort is sedation. Rest is recovery. Scrolling, binge watching, snacking, drinking, that's sedation. That's how you escape your emptiness. Real rest only happens when you've actually earned it with meaningful effort. Truth number 3, you're not missing motivation. You're missing meaning. Motivation is easy when you know where you're going, but with no direction, even brushing your teeth feels heavy. Why direction creates energy. Look at soldiers in war zones, entrepreneurs building startups, parents raising newborns. Do they sleep less? Yes. Do they work harder? Absolutely. Yet they're alive. Why? Because direction turns exhaustion into fulfillment. When you're working towards something bigger than yourself, fatigue feels different. It feels earned. It carries pride. You collapse into bed knowing you moved the needle. That kind of tired fills you. The tired you're living right now, it empties you. The attraction dynamic of purpose. Let's pull this into relationships. Nothing is more magnetic than someone with direction. Not looks, not charm, not wealth. Direction. Why? Because direction is security. It signals clarity, strength, resilience. People feel safe orbiting someone who knows where they're going. Without it, you radiate instability. You become dependent, needy, boring. Ever wonder why someone pulled away when you gave them everything? It wasn't about giving too much. It was about giving without a backbone. You poured energy into them because you had nowhere else to pour it. They didn't feel cherished. They felt smothered. The first shift you need. You don't need to map out the next 30 years. You don't need perfect clarity. You just need a direction that matters enough to kill your excuses. Pick one pursuit that feels heavy enough to scare you. Commit to moving 1 inch toward it every day. Treat everything else as background noise. That's it. Stop overcomplicating it. Practical drill tonight. Write down the top 3 things you did today. Then ask yourself, did these actions move me closer to the person I claim I want to become? If the answer is no, congratulations, you've identified exactly why you feel burned out. Stop using burnout as a badge. You wear burnout like it makes you important, like it proves you're working hard. It doesn't. It proves you're wandering. Truly burned out people built something first. They went all in, then collapsed under the weight of their mission. You never had a mission. You collapsed under the weight of aimlessness. And here's the slap until you find direction. You'll keep confusing laziness with exhaustion. You'll keep treating distraction as recovery. and you'll keep mistaking emptiness for burnout. The takeaway: you don't need more rest. You don't need more hacks. You don't need more time. You need a compass. One pursuit, one mission, one direction. Find it, and suddenly the energy returns. The fog clears. The excuses die. Because you were never burned out, you were just lost. Direction is the cure. Finding it is easier than you think. Rebuilding your compass. You don't need more energy. You need a spine. Your exhaustion will vanish the moment your direction is non-negotiable. Let's get raw. You've built your life on reactions, not decisions. That's why you feel crushed. Not because you're weak, not because you're burned out, but because you've surrendered control. You've let your boss, your partner, your friends, and even your phone tell you where to go. And then you wonder why you feel like you're running in circles. Here's the blunt truth: if you don't set your compass, somebody else will, and their destination won't serve you. The anatomy of a compass. A compass isn't a 50-year plan. It's not a bucket list. It's not a Pinterest board. A compass is one thing, a direction you refuse to betray. That direction has 3 layers. 1. Principle, the kind of human you refuse not to be. Example: I don't tolerate dishonesty in myself or others. 2. Mission, the type of impact you commit to creating. Example: I build things that outlast me. 3. Path, the current arena where you practice both. Example: right now I'm channeling this into my work as a designer, coach, art builder. When you don't have these 3, you drift. When you do, every decision is lighter. Brutal realizations you keep dodging. Realization number 1: your burnout is self-inflicted because you've been sprinting without a compass. You confuse motion with direction, and motion without direction is the fastest way to drain your soul. Realization number 2: your passions don't matter if you lack standards. Passion without principle is chaos. You felt it: wild bursts of excitement followed by emptiness. Why? Because you had fire without a fireplace. Realization number 3: the life you envy in others isn't about luck. It's about enforcement. They enforce their compass daily. You abandon yours the moment it feels inconvenient. That's the only difference. The role of pain. Listen carefully. Pain isn't the enemy. Pain is your compass screaming, you're off course. That restless anxiety when you agree to things you hate, directionless. That pit in your stomach when you settle in relationships, directionless. That quiet despair on Sunday night, directionless. You keep medicating pain with distraction, but pain isn't the disease. It's the map. Follow it back to where you sold yourself out. Relationships without a compass. Let's talk attraction. You think people left because you weren't enough. Wrong. They left because you were undefined. Nothing is more repulsive than a person with no direction, because no direction means no gravity, and no gravity means no pull. When you have a compass, you stop orbiting others. You become the one they orbit. That's not arrogance, that's physics. Humans crave certainty. If you don't have it, you become dead weight in their story. So stop whining about why they lost interest. Ask yourself, did I have a compass when they met me? Or was I hoping they'd hand me one? Building your compass back. Here's how you rebuild, not in theory, in practice. Step 1, define your non-negotiables. Write down 3 lines you refuse to cross again. Example: I don't beg for attention. I don't waste weeks on things that don't serve my mission. I don't lie to myself to stay comfortable. These aren't wishes, they're contracts. Break them once, and you've betrayed yourself. Step 2, name your North Star. What's one pursuit you'd chase if applause didn't matter? That's your North Star. Don't overthink. Choose. Step 3, set a daily needle mover. Every morning, ask what one action today proves I'm aligned with my compass. Do it before noon. Earn your respect before you check notifications. Step 4, audit weekly. On Sunday, ask, where did I betray my compass this week? Why? How do I prevent it next time? No judgment, Just forensic honesty. Stop looking for permission. This will sting. You're waiting for someone to validate your direction. Parents, friends, mentors. You want a pat on the head before you commit? That's why you're paralyzed. Here's the slap: nobody's coming. Nobody cares. Nobody will ever feel your calling as deeply as you. If you're waiting for approval, you're waiting to die. The mindset shift direction isn't about certainty. It's about refusal. Refusal to betray your principles. Refusal to stay in dead spaces. Refusal to waste this one life wandering. You don't need to know every step. You need to know where you'll never walk again. That clarity is enough. The final slap for this section: you don't have a burnout problem. You have a betrayal problem. You betray your compass every day, and each betrayal robs you of energy, respect, and attraction. So here's the challenge this week. Enforce one non-negotiable, just one. Watch how your energy shifts. Watch how people treat you differently. Watch how the fog lifts, because purpose doesn't arrive fully formed. It arrives the moment you stop betraying yourself. You're not burned out. You're just lost. And staying lost is a choice. Purpose as the antidote. You don't need another break. You need a mission. Direction is oxygen. Without it, you suffocate and then call it burnout. Let's stop lying. You've had enough rest to last a lifetime. You've scrolled, binged, slept in, numbed out. Did any of it refill you? No, because rest without purpose is sedation, and sedation doesn't heal. It just keeps you unconscious long enough to forget you're wasting your life. Here's the brutal difference: burned out people collapse because they cared too much. Directionless people collapse because they cared too little. Which one are you? Why purpose feeds energy. Purpose is the conversion engine. It takes stress and turns it into fuel. It takes sacrifice and turns it into pride. It takes exhaustion and turns it into satisfaction. That's why people who work harder than you, parents raising 3 kids, founders pulling all-nighters, athletes grinding until their bodies scream, look more alive than you. They're not superhuman. They're just not wandering. And here's the dagger: you're not tired because you're doing too much. You're tired because you're doing too little of what matters. The relationship between attraction and purpose. Let's circle back to attraction dynamics. Nothing is sexier, more magnetic, more grounding than purpose. Looks fade, charm wobbles, status shifts, but purpose, that's untouchable. People want to be close to someone with gravity, someone whose life has weight, someone who wakes up with direction and doesn't apologize for it. When you lack purpose, you leak neediness. You orbit them. You look to them for your meaning, and that energy is repulsive. You want a partner who respects you. Build a purpose so strong they can't ignore it. You want respect in any room. Carry a mission so clear people feel it before you speak. Because when you stand for something, you stop begging to be chosen. You become the chooser. The pain of raising purpose. This is where most of you break, because purpose demands sacrifice. It asks you to give up cheap pleasures, to prune toxic people, to face discomfort. And here's the shocking truth: you prefer the pain of emptiness over the pain of growth. That's why you keep calling it burnout. Burnout sounds noble. Directionless sounds pathetic. So you choose the noble label over the real cure. But if you're serious about change, you need to swallow this. Every meaningful life comes with pain. The pain of focus, the pain of loss, the pain of facing who you are without distractions. And yet, that pain liberates. It carves you into someone you can finally respect. Practical purpose. Rebuild enough theory. Here's the blueprint. 1. Write your hell no list. Forget dreams for a second. Write down what you absolutely refuse to keep tolerating. Soul-killing jobs, one-sided relationships, numbing routines. This list is your guardrail. 2. Craft a one-line purpose. Don't overcomplicate. Example: oh, I create things that outlast me. Oh, I help people see their own strength. Oh, I live fully awake, not half asleep. That one line is your compass. 3. Pick a vehicle. Purpose is abstract until you attach it to a vehicle. Maybe it's your career, a side project, your art, your family. It doesn't matter where you start, it matters that you start. 4. Sacrifice something small today. Replace 1 hour of numbing with 1 hour of building. Cancel one toxic plan. Take one uncomfortable step that proves you serve your purpose, not your excuses. 5. Track alignment, not hours. At the end of the day, ask, did I live my one-line purpose today? Yes or no. That's it. No gray areas. The identity shift. When you lock into purpose, you stop asking, what do I feel like? You start asking, what does my mission demand? That shift is everything. Because feelings are fickle, missions are steady, and when you live for a mission, you can endure storms that used to break you. The final slap. You don't need more time. You don't need more comfort. You don't need more hacks. You need a mission, and the mission isn't hiding in a book, a podcast, or someone else's approval. It's been sitting in your gut the whole time, waiting for you to stop lying and finally commit. So here's the choice. Keep pretending you're burned out and keep drowning in meaningless comfort. Or admit you're directionless. Choose a purpose and feel your life explode back into motion. You're not burned out. You're directionless. And finding purpose is easier than you think if you finally stop betraying yourself.